Namaskar everyone. So today we are here to discuss the Mahabharata Adiprarva and we'll be discussing Pratham Adhyay. So do you think the Mahabharata begins with the Pandavas and Kauravas? Not even close. The first 54 shlokas are basically the Marvel opening credits before the actual movie begins. Let's dive in. The Mahabharata opens in the peaceful Naimisha Forest, where Rishi Shaunaka is conducting an extraordinary 12-year mahayagya. Imagine that. 12 years, guys. This was not an ordinary ritual. Sages from across Bharat had gathered there. And now enters our first main character. Drum rolls, please. Rishi Ugrashrava Sauti. If the Mahabharata had YouTube, he would be its biggest storyteller. As he is the son of the legendary Rishi Loma Harshana, and both father and son were famous for narrating the Vedas and Puranas. As soon as Ugrashrava arrives, he respectfully bows to all the assembled sages. The sages immediately recognize him. They basically say, "Wait, isn't this the famous Sauti Kumar, the one who has traveled everywhere and knows all the great stories?" So naturally they ask him, "Where have you been? What incredible knowledge have you brought with you this time?" And Ugrashrava replies, "I have just returned from King Janmejya's great yajna." Now here's where things get interesting. At that yajna, Rishi Vaishampayan, the disciple of Bhagwan Vedavyasa, narrated the entire Mahabharata exactly as its guru has composed it. Imagine hearing the Mahabharata directly from the disciple of its author. But Ugrashrava did not stop there. After leaving the yajna, he traveled to Samanta Panchaka, today's Kurukshetra. Standing on that sacred land, he paid his respects to the countless warriors who had fought the greatest war in history. Only after visiting the battlefield does he arrive at Naimisha Forest. The sages become even more curious. "You have heard the Mahabharata firsthand. Please narrate it to us." And before beginning, Ugrashrava explains why this text is unlike any other. He says, "The Mahabharata is not just another story. It contains the essence of the Vedas. It explains history. It teaches philosophy. It discusses politics, ethics, relationships, spirituality, and human nature. That is why it came to be called the Mahabharata, the Great Bharata." And next come one of my favorite moments. Before telling the story, Sauti offers prayers, not because it's a ritual, but because in our tradition, knowledge always begins with humility. First, we bow, then we speak. Then Ugrashrava introduces the genius behind this epic, Bhagwana Vedavyasa, a sage who had mastered the Vedas, understood their deepest meanings, and composed a work so profound that it became revered across all the three worlds. Then suddenly the Mahabharata zooms out, way out. Before talking about kings, it talks about creation itself. The Sanskrit here is so beautiful that the translations cannot fully capture it. So I will read these verses in Hindi. सृष्टि के प्रारंभ में जब यहाँ वस्तु विशेष या नाम रूप आदि का भान नहीं होता था, प्रकाश का कहीं नाम नहीं था, सर्वत्र अंधकार ही अंधकार छा रहा था, उस समय एक बहुत बड़ा अण्ड प्रकट हुआ जो संपूर्ण प्रजाओं का अविनाशी बीज था। ब्रह्माकल्प के आदि में उसी महान एवं दिव्य अंड को 4 प्रकार के प्राणी समुदाय का कारण कहा जाता है, जिसमें सत्य स्वरूप ज्योतिर्मय सनातन ब्रह्मा अंतर्यामी रूप से प्रविष्ट हुआ है, ऐसा श्रुति वर्णन करती है। So the text now describes the eternal Brahman, beginningless reality. From this infinite consciousness emerges the cosmic egg. From it comes Brahma, then Rudra, then Manu, then Prajapatis, then Daksha, the 7 great sages, Yakshas, Pitras, Gandharvas, and countless beings. Slowly the universe unfolds. Water, sky, earth, wind, space, directions, and then comes time itself. days, nights, months, seasons, years, and finally, one of the most profound ideas in Indian philosophy. Everything that is born eventually dissolves back into its source. Creation is not a one time event, it's a cycle again and again and again. One of the verses beautifully reminds us that the wheel of time never gets tired. It keeps creating, it keeps destroying without beginning and without end. After establishing the universe, the Mahabharata shifts to human civilization. We are introduced to the great royal dynasties, the Bharatas, the Kurus, the Yadavas, the Ikshvakus. Because before telling one family's story, the Mahabharata first shows us where that family fits into the larger history of Bharat. Finally, we return to Vyasa. The text praises him not merely as an author but as a visionary. He understood the three great goals of worldly life: dharma, artha, kama. He saw how the wisdom of the Vedas could guide ordinary human beings. So instead of keeping that knowledge limited to scholars, he wove it into stories. Some sages memorized it, some explained it, some wrote commentaries, some taught it to their disciples. And that's how the Mahabharata traveled across generations for thousands of years. So, before we even meet Bhishma, before Arjuna picks up a bow, before Krishna speaks a single word, the Mahabharata tells us something remarkable. This isn't just the story of one war, it's the story of the universe, time, kings, humanity, wisdom, and ultimately ourselves. And guess what? We are only 54 shlokas in. So stay tuned for the part 2 where we'll begin from shloka 55. Dhanyavad.